Introducing Nose to Tail, a podcast where we explore the world of aviation lifecycle solutions, insights, and more. Presented by Jet Midwest.
Welcome back to the Nose to Tail podcast. I'm Patrick Kraus, COO with Jet Midwest. I'm here with Josh Wilson. Josh, how you doing?
Doing very good. Thank you for having me today.
Good. Hey, maybe you could enlighten all of our listeners, give them a little background on how you got into the industry and kind of how you ended up where you are today.
Yeah, my intro into the industry was a unique one. In fact, the job that I started with, I don't even believe actually exists anymore. I started off at a Part 145 repair station here locally as a part-time job in high school, actually. And my main job was to print and revise technical data from microfiche when units would arrive at our facility. So when they would arrive, I would be responsible for locating which aircraft they were from and finding the right ATA chapter, and then searching through microfiche to print and revise the current tech data for all the techs to be working on in the shop.
Yeah, and I know we previously have talked, but my brother and I are partners, and he had bought a package of material, and in that material, the trace was in microfiche. And so he's like, hey, we got a microfiche machine that we bought that's in the back. And so I went back and played with it a little bit to get what I needed. And I came out feeling a little motion sick, and what terrible technology, honestly. I'm glad we're not using that these days.
Yeah, most of the time when people who are not familiar with microfiche ask, I just tell them, hey, if you're familiar with an old movie or a TV show where they're going to do research in a library, typically you used to see old newspaper articles on microfiche. And so people would scroll by that. Pretty unbelievable way that we used to do that, and how efficient our process is nowadays with PDFs and online tech data is very beneficial.
Oh, yeah. Thank goodness for this, for the new technology. So after you finished doing all your microfiche time, how did you expand your career from there?
Yeah, so I learned a lot there. Obviously, learning part numbers to aircraft or part numbers to ATA chapters, you're learning a lot about OEMs and those kinds of things. So I had the ability to move around inside that same 145 and continue my learning path. I worked in the stock room, shipping, receiving, the parts blasting room, the cleaning room, a little bit of tech work. When I eventually found my way into customer service is really where I kind of stuck at that repair station and worked my way up from there, eventually finding vice president of customer support at that repair station. And then in 2019, I had an opportunity to join Wyatt Aerospace. David Gilbert and Laura Jones asked me to come over here and join the team. At that time, they were just getting started a brand new repair station named EARP Aviation Repairs. Wyatt was started in about 2006 by David Gilbert, and was mostly a brokerage firm originally. They did distribute for some SEAL companies like Trelleborg and some other small distribution agreements that they had. Eventually started to do teardowns. And then in 2019 was when David decided to collaborate with Bob Arnett, who was a VP of quality at another repair station, to start EARP Aviation. They received their 145 certificate in February of 2020, which I think we can all agree was not the most banner time in the industry. So kind of a little nerve-wracking at that point to see if we were going to be able to keep it going. Received our EASA certificate in just March of the same year. So fully ready to go, and just in time for nobody to send out repair work. It was great. Yeah.
Exactly. No usage on wheels or brakes when they're sitting on the ground doing nothing.
They're just rolling.
So maybe you can enlighten us a little bit on the naming convention that they decide to use. Obviously, Wyatt Aerospace coming first and EARP second. There must be some significance there for the owners.
Of course, yeah. So if you're familiar with Arizona history, the Tombstone shootout at the OK Corral, the whole Wyatt EARP significance, it wasn't originally intended to be that symbolic for Arizona. However, we wanted a name that kind of matched with Wyatt Aerospace, since they were sister companies, but separate companies altogether, different ownership structures, different groups. So we wanted them to be affiliated, but not directly related. So the whole naming rights of Wyatt EARP from the Arizona history is kind of how we chose EARP Aviation Repairs.
Very nice. Now, do you guys have like cap gun fights and stuff in the shop?
I told them as long as we wearing cowboy hats and chaps at the trade shows, then I'm all aboard with the naming. It's all good. Yeah. Although a lot of
Marketing genius right there.
there you go. Yeah. They'll always remember the name if we do it, right? Maybe one day.
That's very true, right? That's I think that's marketing 101. It's they just want them talking about you.
That's right.
It doesn't matter why. They just need to be talking about you. So you went from a technician role. It sounds like you learned some technician work in there, and then you moved into the office. Did you make that move just as a career leap? Was it? Were you not a technician at heart, or do you just love the sales?
I am a mechanical person by heart, but instead of choosing one or the other, I feel like the customer service side chose me. It really was a sense of I understood our customer base, I understood the parts, and then with a little bit of mechanical background and working in some of those other support roles in the company, I was able to better understand the flow of the workflow, was able to communicate that to the customer more accurately. And with having a small technician background, I'm able to understand technical side and kind of bring that into the equation as well. Whereas most customer service departments are just relying on somebody a little bit more technical to give them that information.
Since you're affiliated with both companies, are you fulfilling both sales and business development roles, both for the parts component side as well as the MRO side?
Yes, my official title for both companies is the same. It's Vice President of Business Development at both companies. But business development can be anything. Like any small company, we're involved in every facet of the business. In business development, I'm helping people ship stuff into our facility. I'm helping make shipments outside of the facility. I'm helping make sure part procurement is happening on time. I'm intimately involved in operations and the sales side of it as well.
When you started, did you start on the MRO or did you start into the parts side?
Initially was hired by Wyatt Aerospace, which was kind of a new role for me, having been at a 145 for 17 years before, and then transitioning over into the aftermarket or USM provider. While I was familiar with USM because we were dealing with them on the repair side, really understanding that business was a steep learning curve for me.
I've been in the parts business for since 1999 when I got into the industry, and we opened our repair station in 2010. And like a lot of things, when you jump into a new venture, a lot of learning lessons early on, and it's hard to believe it's been 15 years since we opened our MRO, and really it took us 10 years to really find what our personality was going to be, and we tried a lot of different things, and landed in a really good space with really good leadership, but it is a different beast selling component repair than it is selling aircraft parts. I can definitely say I struggle with the pace of it sometimes. When you're selling aircraft parts, it's, whatever, 1,000 RFQs a day and you're closing 100 deals a day or more. And the MRO side, the volume just isn't there. And there's also a lot more customer service actually needed from what I've experienced. I'm not sure how it is on the wheel and brake side, but there's a lot of touch. Hey, we thought this was going to be a $20,000 repair, but we opened it up and here's the pictures and the MDT that we've done, and we've got this other repair that we've got to add on to this, which is a tough explanation to give people sometimes when you're going from 20 to 30,000, sometimes more.
Absolutely.
So it is definitely a different kind of customer service. How would you rate it in terms of the wheels and brake business? Is there a differentiator between wheels and brakes and the company that you worked for previously on product line? Did they behave a little bit different? It is a bit of a niche market, is it not?
It is. Yes, absolutely. And first of all, congratulations for 15 years on your MRO. That is a heck of an accomplishment. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, the previous MRO that I worked for, we had roughly 72,000 capabilities on our capabilities list.
Wow.
So I went from what I like to tell people, hunting with a shotgun to hunting with a sniper rifle. When I started doing outside sales for repair station for EARP Aviation, I'm picking off only wheels and brakes for mostly commercial, regional, a little bit of general aviation, but really focused items. And sometimes that can make the conversation very quick if they're under contract with something like that, or Sometimes it can make it a little bit more drawn out if they're having some sort of complications or they had complications in the past. We're talking about very specific engineering type of data. So much smaller realm there. But for sales, outside sales for Wyatt Aerospace, I'll agree with you 100%. Much faster pace. And I felt like I was learning. I was drinking through a fire hose for the first few months. You're really good at your capabilities when you're working at a repair station. Even when we had a large capability list, I felt like I had it. I understood it. And then you come here and now we have the whole airplane to sell. I'm learning ATA chapters that I didn't even know existed when I came over to Wyatt Aerospace and really started to pick up that business. It was fast paced, and the breadth of products that you can sell go from, consumable parts all the way up to the big stuff. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, the teardown business is a pretty wild ride at times, especially, depending on how your business model for the whole company is set up. And we've evolved over time, like all companies really should. But when we were very early on in our careers, we really needed to get the money back. So we were really focused on going as fast as we could, even though maybe we took thinner margins on certain things and we went super fast. And as we grew our customer base, we realized, we really need to go a little slower. We still go fast, but it is a better plan of attack, I think, from the teardown side. And that chaos that you talk about being in there, it's real on every airplane, depending on its circumstances. And our team, we got some guys overseas today that are struggling on projects. Like, the vendor is just not so helpful when we are in different countries. Sometimes it's a little harder to do work than it is here when you do it in your own backyard.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I would guess that Wyatt also became one of the best customers for EARP Aerospace. Now it's EARP Aerospace, right?
EARP Aviation Repairs. Yeah, exactly. So initially,
did Wyatt become a great customer there?
Yeah, initially Wyatt was the launch customer, obviously the premier customer for us. Really getting our feet wet into the repair side of the business. In 2020, there wasn't a lot of business out there to be sought after. So what we did is we focused in on the ones that we did have in-house and trying to learn all the different repairs that we could do. We tried to accomplish some of the repairs and really, like you said, trying to figure out a way to squeeze some revenue out of this thing to start making some of that money back on it. Eventually, it's starting to loosen up a little bit and we were able to get some of that business in the door. Our goal was not have Wyatt be the primary customer for the business. Initially, that had to be the case. That wasn't our goal. And now it's probably in 15 to 20% of the business. At one point, it was probably somewhere in the 80 to 90% of the business.
What type of aircraft was Wyatt tearing down? Are those 737s and A320s?
Back in 2020 or currently?
Both, actually. Because if that was feeding the shop at the beginning, I don't really recall the product types that you guys were really specializing in at the time.
Very heavy 747-400 at that time. We had a lot of the 7.4 Goodrich brakes in-house that we were working on. And then quickly after that, they dismantled an A330 here in the States. And so we were able to work on an additional product line there to kind of get our feet wet before we started taking on other work. And then we worked with other companies that were local, other companies that weren't affected as much. We started working with flight schools. It's not a surprise, but they have a lot of hard landings in flight schools and a lot of NDT work on Weeples, as you could imagine there. Where most of those aircraft don't have a lot of brakes, a lot of wheels to go through, and a lot of NDT. So we worked with local companies at different air parks around the valley here, bringing some of that general aviation and business jet work. The business jets were still operating primarily out of the Scottsdale Air Park for us. But yeah, it was a good way to learn some new product lines and get some additional revenue in the door for us at the time.
We'll continue this discussion on the next episode of Nose to Tail, a podcast presented by Jet Midwest. Don't forget to please like and subscribe to our channel.